Hello YouTube, this is Hunter Surge here with another day of Cardfight Vanguard reveals. So we are once again talking stream reveals for Lyrical. And today we have the second new ride line, which is what's it called, Raiz Blaze? Yeah, Rise Blaze. Rise Blaze. Rise Blaz or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. We might have a new encounter revealed later. Like they really like holding the encounters from the initial reveal. But of the new ride lines that we know about at this stage, this is the second and last of them. So let's get into it. But first up, did you know Vanguard has protein bars? I didn't. This isn't even the first set of them. These Vanguard protein bars. They come with energy card promos. I think that's real funny. I think that's very funny that this is the case. Anyways, new card supplies. Mostly. Oh right, yeah, we're getting Alk this set. Yeah, we have another ride line this set. We already know about Alk. I'm stupid. Right, yeah, we have Alk. Alk is the encounter for this set that we already have confirmed. Okay. But they might confirm a second one later because they did that last time. I think. No, did we know about? I think we knew both of them out the gate. I actually think we knew both of them out the gate last time. Regardless. So this is Alk card supplies plus the two Skywrite decks, getting sleeves, Deep Lands, and Alaskal. Very excited for those two Skywrite decks. Also Monster Strike sleeves because it's getting a new wave support in DC12 in Japan, but we are almost certainly never going to see that one because we don't have the previous Monster Strike cards. And I highly doubt they're going to make like no reference to the existing cards with this new Monster Strike stuff. But also something I find particularly notable is that in the character sleeves we have not only the characters who play Deep Lands and Alaskal, which is Suina and Ryu. We also have Zero and Shiki sleeves. And that really super confirms to me at least that there's definitely going to be like some form of Regilla and Assassin support in this set. I think it was a pretty safe assumption, as is, that there would be some Regilla and Assassin support. But like, if we're also releasing character sleeves for those characters at this time, like, I really think that's very, very, very likely. Yeah. Okay, let's get into race plays. So let's start from the bottom of the ride line. So where's the bottom of the ride line? Okay. So to do starter, Polka is a starter things. Does the same boring thing every starter does. Then we have where's the grade one for the ride line? Here it is. Courant is the grade one for the ride line. It's rode upon by the grade two. And if you have Polka in the soul, so you are obligated to use the specific grade 0. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck and reveal or add a Dragoroid non-sentinel normal unit or normal order to your hand and shuffle your deck. We're going to see a lot more of this as we go through this deck, but this deck is very xenophobic. You have to be using as many Dragoroids as you possibly can. It is not optional. But this is like a decent enough ride line effect. It's not super fantastic. It's actually kind of annoying that it can't add triggers, even if like normally you wouldn't want to do this. That in the context of this deck, as we'll get into, it wouldn't be so bad to be able to do that. It would just make it more live, but you can't. So you know. Then the grade 2 ride line, it gets a continuous effect if your Vanguard's grade if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. So basically, if you're going second, all of your Dragoroid trigger units get an additional shield plus 5,000. So like this is the sort of thing that I always like to see. I always like to see these bonus shield effects. I'm a big fan of them. Um, it's pretty cool. It makes all your Dragoroid triggers into 20k shields, or 10k shields if they're a draw trigger. I did go through and check the Dragoroids. So for for the Dragoroid triggers, there's exactly one Dragoroid trigger of each trigger type, and they're all vanillas. So like you could go like 4 crit 7 front for heal if you really want to go in on having if you really want to go in on having the 20k shields, because then you can have 4 front, then you have the 20k fronts, and then you have the normal fronts, and those are all going to be 20k shields, which isn't too bad of a concept to be going with. Anyways, when wrote upon by grade 3 with Raiz Blaz in its name, you choose and add up to 1 Dragoroid non-sentinel or a normal unit, Dragoroid non-sentinel normal unit or a normal order from your drop to your hand. So like you get to like guard with something early and then get it back, which is pretty nice. Not too bad stuff. And then the grade 3, Foria. So Foria upgrades the effect that we saw in the grade 2. So all of your Dragoroid trigger units get shield plus 5,000. And also, during your turn, those triggers also give plus 5,000 more power. So there's even more incentive here to like be going on a full Dragoroid trigger lineup, outside of the overtrigger, of course. So like it could be like a 4 crit 7 front motive, with 4 of the Dragoroid front, because that's what lets us maximize it. We could also just go 7 crit 4 front with the fronts being Dragoroids, since we like there's really no difference between the Dragoroid front and the 20k shield front. But if we want like all of our triggers to be 20k shield, which is something that's pretty valuable, that is like a pretty valuable thing. That's something that we could be doing there. And then act once per turn, you can EB3 and you look top 7 and you reveal and add up to 1 Dragoroid non-sentinel normal unit or normal order to your hand, and then you choose and retire an opponent's rear that has the same grade as the card you revealed. And then on attack, counterblast 1, you stand all the Dragoroids in your front row, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you also restand the ones in your back row as well. That's pretty good. That's not bad at all. Very, very potent. Like top 7 add, good defensive mechanic, and makes your trigger stronger, and just restands the whole field. Of course, you have to be on Dragoroids. You just have to be on Dragoroids. Everything has to be a Dragoroid. Fortunately, one very good generic lyrical card is a Dragoroid. Strega is a Dragoroid. So what this deck actually is it's the greatest Strega merchant of all time. Because, oh, would you look at that? Every piece of my rideline, as well as my grade 3, can also add normal orders, as well as Dragoroids, which includes Strega. So you are like one of the best things this deck has going for it is like it has very increasing consistency at getting to do Strega stuff. Now let's look at the deck's designated normal order. That is, here it is. Winter Live Check It. This is a grade 2 normal order. Energy charge 3, and then if you Persona Road this turn, counter charge 1. Now, this deck doesn't actually have very high counterblast requirements. So I don't actually think this card is very worth using. I think it's probably better to use a generic order. So like Super Aesthetic Shot is really good, of course, but also you can just use High 5. You can just use High 5, just pay the counterblast cost for it, and it's fine. The fact that this order isn't playable from drop is a huge strike against it. That's really what you want to be seeing from orders these days. And there's a generic order that does do that. Counterblast costs in this deck aren't so high that you can't afford to use high five. So I feel like that might be the play. Maybe you just end up going with this anyways. But like, there's not really much in the way of energy costs to lean into in the Dragoroid stuff. So that the energy charge is weird. There is another card in this deck that does use energy, but not so much that you need like an energy charge 3 every turn. So that bit's weird. Yeah, I definitely think that you end up on a different order than this one. Yeah. Okay. Um, Yeah, I think I think you just end up on high five. Because like you can still dig for high five with the effect of your rideline. It just adds any normal order. So I don't think you actually end up running this card. And this card's a double rare, by the way. This card they really thought they cooked with that card. They really thought they cooked with that card. Okay, so let's talk about some more cards. So the triple rare for the deck is Dieta. She has the effect to Counterblast 1 to revive herself if Counterblast 1. Oh, is that Counterblast 1 Soul Blast 1? Okay, so the initial translation I saw of this was wrong. It said you Soul Charge 1 when you do this, and I was like very confused about that because like why would this Soul Charge 1? Why would this soul? For what reason? There's like no soul cost in this entire deck. Why in the world would this soul charge 1? It doesn't soul charge 1. It costs soul blast 1. Okay, that's it. That's like if it's not doing random soul charges for no reason, then this card is actually significantly better than it was on first read. But if you just revive it to any of your rear guard circles, even if you have one of the same name, you don't have to do a specific action. It's just an act. Very nice self reviver. Now, I do think if you're going in on an order that costs Counterblast, you can't super afford to be doing this super often. But it's still like a pretty solid card, like very nice. Then in the center back row, at the start of your battle phase, you can rest 3 Dragoroid in your back row. Choose one of your Vanguards with Foria in its name, and it gets continuous Vanguard. All units in your front row get power plus 5k. And if your opponent is grade 3 or greater, it gets power plus 10k instead. And then at the end of the turn, you throw this into Soul. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you draw a card. So I definitely don't think this card is worth using when your opponent's on grade 2. Like this effect specifically. You don't want to use this effect when your opponent's on grade 2. You would definitely much rather just keep your boosters. Because your Vanguard's effect on attack isn't going to restand your boosters yet. You're not going to get the draw effect, and the power gain you're getting is not enough to make up for the lack of boosters on your first swings. Or any of your swings, because your boosters aren't restanding. Because your opponent is on grade 3 yet. So this whole effect might as well just have an opponent's grade 3, opponent being grade 3 or greater restriction on it. But it doesn't. I guess it does also mean like you can like technically like if you're in like a weird hand composition moment, you could like be calling like grade 2s back there and you don't really have to care. So that's like something, I guess. But like the way this card really shines is when you're using it when your opponent's grade 3 or greater, because you get power plus 10k to your entire front row. And when your Vanguard attacks, you're just going to restand your whole back row anyways. So that you still get to utilize your boosters on your second swing. Of course, you could also just like double dip on your boosters, and that's pretty good too. So I don't know. This card's weird. I think its main value is as a self reviver, but I don't think it's a super incredible card overall. However, having your back row rested does matter for is it this card? Yes, this card. This grade 3 that deck has a double rare. One Once per turn, when it attacks and there are 3 rested Dragoroids in your back row, during this turn, you may give this unit power plus 5k, and if you do so, retire at end of turn and draw a card. It also gets plus 5k shield on Guardian as long as you have a Raiz Blaz Vanguard, which is pretty cool. That's pretty neat. But it's only power plus 5k, and the condition is super annoying to get there. I'm not super sure this card is even worth playing. I think you definitely play like some copies of Deletta just because it can self-revive, so it can help with board building. But this whole back row resting gimmick doesn't seem super worthwhile. I don't know what's going on with that. Now let's get to a good card. Grade 2, a double rare. When it's placed on rear from hand and you have a Vanguard with Raiz Blaz in its name, you look 5 cards from the top of your deck, and you reveal and add up to 1 normal order to your hand, and shuffle your deck. Oh, does this not add Dragoroid? Oh my god, doesn't add Dragoroid. I thought I had Dragoroid too. Oh, this card is much worse than I thought. But it's like a free top X check. So like that's pretty solid. And then if you're revealed, you put a card from hand to soul. This is another reason why I think like high five is probably the order of choice here. Because if it's high five, you can then soul blast it out with like the grade 1 that self revives. And then high five is in your drop zone to be used, and that's you're actually going like +1 effectively on this effect instead of going +0. Also on attack, if you have a grade 3 or greater Raiz Blaz Vanguard, it gets power plus 5k until end of turn, and this is once per turn, so you don't get to double dip. Grade 1 rare, first challenge, Svinny. Once per turn, you can Energy Blast 2, choose one of your Dragoroid units, and during this turn it gets power plus 5k. This has some obvious synergy with the rest of your whole back row thing, which isn't too bad. And like you will always have like a bit of extra energy, especially if you're using Winter Life Checker. This is like the other way for you to use your energy in the deck. So that's all right. And then we have another grade 1 minimum tree Alobera. During your ride phase, when you discard this from your hand, if you have a Raiz Blaz Vanguard, you can call this card onto a rearguard circle at rest. And if you have a great greater, you call it at stand instead. This is just a pretty solid card. Like you need Dragoroids in the deck. This is just like a just straight +1 to your board. Like it's like I'm pretty sure the version of this we saw at the start of DZ costed energy to do this effect. And this doesn't, which is pretty nice. Like normally when we see these, when we have these sorts of cards, they cost something or like have some sort of like overall nerf, but this is going to have like this fills your board with this helps fill your board with Dragoroid. So like this seems like solid enough. It's not like super fantastic. It's nothing incredible, and like stops doing anything once you hit grade 3. So like if there's enough good generic Dragoroids, you probably don't run this. But it's like all right. It's like decent. It's okay. Now let's talk other Dragoroids. We of course have Strega. Strega is really, really, really good. It's definitely like a lifesaver for this deck. These rears that they've revealed for the deck aren't super great, I'll be honest. I think the Rideline and the Vanguard are pretty solid, and they're a pretty decent gimmick. But there's not in the rears that they revealed for the deck and the order that they revealed for the deck, there's not a whole lot that's fantastic. And unfortunately, a lot of the Dragoroids that we do have are not generic. So let's talk about some generic ones. In DZ, in the last lyrical set, we had Tolteli, which when placed on rear, counterblast 1, look top 5 cards of your deck, and you add an order that isn't a Regalis order from among them. Oh, actually, that's worth noting. The Rideline actually does not have the Regalis piece exception, which means that you get to add Fire Regalis of them. So Fire Regalis is almost certainly the order of choice here, because you get to just add it off your ride line if you see on the top 5 or top 7. I think the top 5 rear checker um, doesn't have the Regalis exception either. Yeah, no Regalis exception. So you can add Fire Regalis that way as well, and then like just throw it in Soul, and then you can Soul Blast it out. So yeah, Fire Regalis is definitely the order of choice in here because the deck can just add from top X effects. That's pretty fantastic. Um, let's see, what else do we have? Some Earnest Correct stuff. Da, da, da. We have a grade 1 that if you energy blasted 3 or more this turn for your card effects, it gets power plus 5k for the battle, so it's just a 13k booster. Better than like nothing. The cycle of double rare like boosters from DZ1. The Oracle one is a Dragoroid, so it's when boosted rear guard. If you turn road this turn, you can counter blast 1, soul blast 1. Choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets all your rear guards get power plus 5k. At the end of that battle, you put this unit to the bottom of your deck. So that's like all right. It's not something super incredible. What else do we have here? I looked through these before. I need to find like the decent cards again. There's not a whole lot, to be honest, because so much of this stuff is name locked. Also maybe worth noting is there's a cycle from a couple sets back of grade 2s that when they're placed on Guardian from hand, you can counterblast 1, choose a trigger unit other than over from your drop, and call it to Guardian Circle. This will basically always be able to get a 20k shield trigger because of how the deck functions. And that card is a Dragoroid, so you can add in stuff. Not the best thing in the world though. Like I don't think like you can super afford the counterblast requirements of that. I don't think it's super fantastic. We of course have Strega, as we've already talked about. And like generically, there's just not a whole lot else. There might be some like decent Dragoroid cards hiding in the rest of the set, maybe. Um, but the options for Dragoroids are very slim, and that's definitely the thing that's going to hold back this deck. Um, the fact that it needs to have a full Dragoroid board and the options for good Dragoroids are very limited. Like you have Strega, but they did not give the deck's personalized rears are not very good. They're all like very strange, kind of underpowered, not super great cards. Like I think this is a deck that has some pretty solid potential, but we need better Dragoroids for that. We definitely need better Dragoroids. Now, on that subject, we do have a couple of days of cards of the day to go over, and there is a Dragoroid in one of those reveals. Um, However, this card is like kind of awkward with the deck. So this is for Lori. She has a grade 3 on back row rear. During your turn, if 4 or more of your units entered this turn, this card gets boost, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, he gets power plus 2k. So it's a 15k booster, which is pretty sick. However, Raiz Blades does not they don't bounce, and thus they aren't going to be calling like 4+ rears a turn, which makes this card super awkward for the deck. Yeah, this card just doesn't really line up with what the deck is doing, so it's actually very strange that they gave this one the Dragoroid tag. I don't know, very strange. The other card the card from this one is Mardori. This is not a Dragoroid. This is a demon, I believe. Yeah, this is a demon. And once per turn, when this attacks a grade 3 or greater, you soul charge one, and then if you soul charge a trigger unit, your opponent cannot intercept for the battle. Complete trash. Absolutely worthless card. Horrible. But in the other card of the day, that was in between streams, we had the their neural support, the song stuff. So let's talk about those cards. So we have a double rare, grade 2. when this is placed on rear, you can counterblast one and then activate one of the following. You either search your deck or drop for any song card and put into your hand and shuffle your deck. Or if you have a great three, greater, lower neural, and like you already have a song, you can just draw a card. So that's a nice flexible card. And then when it attacks and you have one or more face down card in your order zone, so the songs that you've sung, it gets power plus 5k for that battle. And if there are two more, it gets power plus 10k. So basic like grade 2 plus 10k attacker that has a good like consistency effect on it. Pretty solid stuff. Then we have a grade 1. When it's discard from your hand during your turn, you look the top 5 cards of your deck and add up to one song card from among them to your hand. So very good discard fodder card. And then on rear or drop, if you have a great to greater Leonardo Vanguard, and you did not bind a card with this card's name once per this turn already, you can bind it to choose and put one or more card from your drop or face up damage zone. Face up in your damage zone into your order zone. So you like take a song. You don't have to worry about damaging one-off songs because you can just take them from your damage zone with this card, which is pretty sick. Or you can get back stuff that you discarded for Raiz. So like, so the songs are pretty safe discards now because you can just get them back with this or the grade 2. And these are very efficient cards. And then if you place from damage zone, you of course put the top card of your deck into your damage zone. Very good stuff. Very, very solid card. Very nice write-up discard fodder. Grade 2, when this enters your rearguard circle, if you have a great or greater Vanguard with their neural in its name, you can flip a face-down card in your order zone face up again. And then it just gets power plus 5k if you have a face-down card in your order zone. This isn't quite as good because like this is a fact that the deck like already has right in the song that restands your board. So especially with these like extra tools to get access to your songs, that definitely feels less necessary, and like its power gain is definitely worse overall. I'm not like I know the cards that Narrow got in its first wave, so I'm not super familiar with the cards it's gotten since between then and now. But what I have seen from people who have touched the deck is that it really needs new songs, and that would not surprise me. Dragoroid tends to be like pretty stringent with giving these set order decks new orders for some reason. These order-based decks new orders for some reason if they've been out for a while. Like they give them in their first couple waves and then just stop. Like look at Velino. Velino's a blitz order focused deck, and like it hasn't gotten like a dedicated blitz order a single time since its initial wave. So like, but they do have some of the like the orders. What I recall of the song orders is that a couple of them are effects that still seem like pretty solid today, though like it would probably be good quality of life to get a new one, you know like a song order that you can play from drop. That'd be cool. Gotta have more of those. But yeah, I don't have super high familiarity with I have like no knowledge of the Leonardo cards that came out between the first wave and this wave. So I have no clue how like if any of this stuff is like super redundant or like what the deck like super needs to keep up. But like in a vacuum with like a basic knowledge of how the deck functions, those first two cards seem very, very solid. But I don't know if this is like really what the deck. It doesn't seem like cards that are so good that I would rocket the deck back into playability. At the very least, like even if those cards read super solid, they aren't like the crazy kind of cards I would rocket the deck back into viability. So yeah. And that's going to be it for me for today. This is Hunter Shirts signing off.